High school basketball is on tap, and SIU's football team has several new coaches.
Stay with us. The SIU Night Report is next.
You're watching WSIU TV, Channel 8, Carbondale.
Good evening. The Carbondale City Council this evening heard the most recent alternatives for the possible relocation of traffic around or under the rail crossings in downtown Carbondale.
The feasibility report calls for several alternatives to the controversial rail depression lowering the tracks beneath the street. One alternative package being considered by the council calls for a traffic underpass at the Mill Street crossing, Grand Street crossing, as well as Monroe Street crossing. Councilman John Yao and Keith Tuxhorn voiced strong concern over the drawback involved with the future overpasses, since the structures would take away from the city's urban profile. Additionally, further arguments were heard in strong support of the Mill Street underpass. Cost to the city for the underpass would come to roughly $5 million, as opposed to the earlier estimate of $60 million for the Depression project.
The majority in both the U.S. House and Senate defeated a 51% pay increase today by a 380 to 48 member vote. Republican Chairman Dan Rostenkowski disagreed.
Members of Congress, the judiciary, and senior administrative officials is irresponsible. We will lose good people in Congress. The young members trying to raise a family, educate their children, and maintain 2 residences.
The pay increase would have raised the current salary from $89,000 to $135,000. Illinois Senators Alan Dixon and Paul Simon voted against the proposal. Governor Thompson is confident that his proposed cigarette tax increase will be approved. Thompson has heard no negative reaction to the proposal so far. The 18-cent increase on cigarettes will generate about $180 million a year. The funds will be used to support education, drug prevention, and high-tech job development. Thompson says that the legislature's favor of the proposal reflects the will of the people. The tax will be approved.
President Bush's newly proposed savings and loan bailout won't help very many of Illinois' savings and loans. State and federal officials say Illinois' most troubled thrifts were sold in late December and will not be included in the proposal. The Illinois thrifts will, however, have to pay higher insurance fees to support the $90 billion bailout unveiled Monday. The plan will put 360 troubled thrifts under joint management of the 2 insurance funds that cover banks and savings and loans. A Carroll man faces 18 months in prison for failing to file income tax returns and mail fraud. 43-year-old Leslie G. Williams was sentenced in federal court Monday. He will also be on probation for 3 years. In addition to his jail term, Williams pleaded guilty to charges in November of 1988. An Internal Revenue Service official says Williams failed to file returns in 1983 and 1984. He also cashed unemployment compensation checks. The IRS says he was manager of a federally funded housing project and an employee of the United Front of Cairo during the period he received the checks. Williams was ordered to repay $4,100 to the state for the unemployment checks and to file returns and pay taxes for the years he missed, along with any interest and civil penalties.
A Saline County judge has denied a motion to dismiss accused murderer Gary Barnard's public defender. The 46-year-old Gary Barnard asked for a new lawyer when he learned his public defender's secretary was on the coroner's jury that decided that the victim's death was a homicide. Judge Arlie Boswell says the pretrial hearing will go on as scheduled on the 28th of this month. Barnard faces 3 counts of murder in the shooting death of 33-year-old Dennis Price. Barnard was convicted of the murder in August of 1981 and served nearly 6 years of a 25-year sentence before winning a new trial appeal in 1986.
Coming up in sports, SIU football has 2 new assistant coaches.
And women learn self-defense. Stay with us. The SIU Night Report is next.
The fear of being raped is becoming more and more of a concern, and a number of SIU women decided they're not going to take it anymore. Over 100 women were on hand to learn a little bit about self-defense tonight at the Recreation Center. This represents an enrollment over 3 times that of last year. Course instructor Jackie Martinez, a 2nd-degree black belt herself, says that unfortunately violence is a way of life and that today's woman needs to know how to defend herself. Martinez says she became interested in self-defense while living in Southern California in the late 70s, during a time when the infamous Hillside Strangler was at large. The 5-week workshop continues next Tuesday and every Tuesday until March 7th. Session time begins at 7:30 p.m.
And now joining us for sports, we have Chip Egan. Chip, I hear the girls' high school basketball regionals got underway today?
That's right. They got underway this evening, in fact, in several of the area high schools. One of those area high schools that was able to host one of the regionals was Carbondale High School. And in the first game tonight, Harrisburg took on Murfreesboro, and the Bulldogs came out ready. Harrisburg's Marcy Duncan has problems controlling the ball here, but when she gets it, she is able to come back and hit the jumper, and the Bulldogs take an early lead. But Murfreesboro comes back as Nancy Mueller drives to her right and hits the jumper to cut the Harrisburg lead. And the fans seem to really like that one, especially that guy right there. But Harrisburg was too much down the stretch. Amy Cavender decides to put up the three-pointer, and she hits it, but I'm not too sure it was three. What do you think? Yeah, it was 3 points. And to cap it off, Shannon Patton comes up with the steal and goes the rest of the way for the layup, and Harrisburg goes on for an easy 57-42 victory. In the second game tonight, Carbondale took on Marion, but it was Marion who came out and struck first. Christy Silvius drives the lane here for an easy 2. Then it was, here she comes. She drives down the lane, easy layup right there for 2 points. Then her teammate Debbie Cole's turn as she comes up. She steals the ball, and she's able to go coast to coast for 2 points. Nice little drive here, uncontested, all the way down for the layup. And the fans decide to take some notes on that one. Carbondale looked to come back. Marcy Holder will come up with the rebound off the missed shot. She'll go back up strong for 2 points. And then here's Carbondale on the break. So the pass goes to Lisa Noltoon and finishes it off, but it was just too little, too late as Marion goes on for the win. They were led by Deb Cole, who had 29 points, while Lisa Nolton led the Terriers with 12. So that sets up the regional final on Thursday night in Carbondale, with Harrisburg taking on Marion. In other games at the Anna Regional, Anna beat Vienna 63-50, and it was Shawnee over Goreville 53-40. Over in the NBA tonight, Michael Jordan led the Bulls with 32 points as they beat the Charlotte Hornets 118-93. Kelly Tripucka had 27 points for the Hornets in the losing cause. Well, SIU head football coach Bob Smith is getting closer to putting the finishing touches on his coaching staff. Today, Smith announced that Stanley King will be retained as defensive backs coach, and Sam Venuto will take over as wide receivers coach. King is the only one that Smith kept from the previous staff, head by Rick Rhodes. Venuto, on the other hand, comes from the University of Illinois, where he and Smith both coached under John Malkovich. The only position not filled is that of offensive coordinator, but one is expected to be named sometime by the end of the week. Well, Heisman Trophy winner Barry Sanders of Oklahoma State could possibly return for his senior year and opt not to go pro. According to a report this afternoon, Sanders says that he is planning to come back to Oklahoma State, despite earlier reports that he'd go pro. Sanders, who got several records last year in the NCAA, including rushing for 39 touchdowns while rushing for 2,628 yards, has a chance to become only the second player in NCAA history to win the Heisman Award twice. Well, hockey's best are up north in the border tonight as they are ready for the annual NHL All-Star Game in Edmonton, Canada. Representing the St. Louis Blues is Dennis Hull, while Dave Manson will be there for the Chicago Blackhawks. But the big story here is that Wayne Gretzky makes a return to Edmonton to play in his 9th All-Star Game. Prior to going to L.A., the Great One had played with the Oilers for 10 seasons. And right now, that game is going into the third period. The Campbell Conference is up 5-3. And finally, in sports, former tennis great Bjorn Borg avoided a near-fatal accident this morning after overdosing on barbiturates. Borg had become ill at his fiancée's apartment in Milan, Italy, and was then immediately rushed to a hospital where he had his stomach pumped. Borg has since returned to his fiancée's place, and fortunately for him, he says he's feeling a little bit better. And that's it in sports.
Okay, thank you, Chip.
New figures out show that Illinois is not unaffected by the hard-hitting AIDS virus. 80 new cases of AIDS were reported in Illinois last month, bringing the number of cases diagnosed since 1981 to 2,500. A State Department spokesman says the majority of Illinoisans with AIDS are men, with over 74% of them being homosexuals. More than half of the state's AIDS patients have reportedly died. AIDS cases have been reported in more than 60 of the 102 Illinois counties. Looks like there's no relief in sight. The cold weather continues.
And SIU makes an attempt for a smoke-free campus. Stay with us. It looks like the cold is in southern Illinois to stay. The forecast is calling for even colder temperatures. Tomorrow, with no relief in sight, currently the temperature is 24 and skies are partly cloudy. The humidity is standing at 71%. Winds are from the southwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. The barometric pressure is 30.60 and rising, and there's no precipitation this evening. Temperatures from around the area. Cape Girardeau checks in at 25 degrees. St. Louis is holding at 25. In Paducah, it is 21 degrees, and in Carbondale, it is currently 24 degrees. Tonight, fair skies with winds from the southwest, 10 to 15 miles per hour, temperatures in the lower 20s. Tomorrow, it will be partly sunny, turning colder with a temperature between the upper 20s to the lower 30s. Tomorrow night, colder with fair skies. The temperature will be in the low teens. For Thursday, it will be mostly sunny and cold with the high in the low 20s.
Southern Illinois University is in the process of evaluating its relatively new smoking policy. The policy created smoke-free areas on campus, and as Night Report's Diane Vise tells us, the policy is in step with a national trend that's leading to fewer and fewer smokers.
Lighting up became a little harder for cigarette smokers on the SIU campus this past summer. As of July 1st of this year, smoking on campus is only permitted in designated areas. The clean air policy received some mixed reviews by students and faculty at first, but now, almost 6 months after the policy was implemented, most smokers accept the new regulations.
It's the people's right to put, policy for smoking, because I know some people, they are really bothered with this. The cigarettes bother them a lot.
Non-smokers have their rights, and at the same time, those smokers have their rights, and I think it's pretty much even.
Even in the last couple of years, it's become harder for smokers to find a place to purchase a pack of cigarettes. Many cigarette machines have been taken out of public areas, and now many smokers must buy them over the counter.
Both government agencies and community buildings, or in the workplace too. We looked at their policies, and many large companies are adopting smoking policies to protect the health and the rights of the non-smokers primarily.
Yet there are still other community buildings, like grocery stores and banks, that allow their customers to smoke. But places like theaters and shopping malls only have certain areas where smokers can go and light up. The initial goal for the clean air policy is to have the SIU campus smoke-free in all buildings by the year 1995. So if the different attitudes towards smoking in public places is changing, maybe someday signs like this one will be extinguished also. In Carbondale, I'm Diane Vise for the SIU Night Report.
2 U.S. Army officers are celebrating in Darien, Illinois, a southwest suburb of Chicago. Keith Walton and Karen Urine are winners of Saturday's $16 million lotto jackpot. It was only the second time to the soon-to-be-married couple, played the lottery. The couple has not made any plans on how to spend the money, but they did say a few of their wedding plans will certainly change.
That's the news for this evening. For everyone at the SIU Night Report in Chippegan, I'm Amy Ruddy.
And I'm Brian Hale. That's the news for this Tuesday night. The McNeil-Lehrer News Hour is next.